Shalom Barak to all who come to this party. Peace and blessings. It is time for a party. Gonna be interesting to see who else shows up for this. Time for a party. Party, party, party. Where is the remote? There we go. Okay. Shalom Barak Akati. Tida, thank you for being here. Today, we're having a party called Lemons to Lemonade. Facebook is trying to get me to invite you to join the live as far as being on the video. Not trying to do that right now. And some of that is the shenanigans of my phone too. Don't use Facebook Live quite often, so I'm sure it's going to be telling me all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it's still trying to ask me to get you to join the live. No, we're fine with what we have going. Got a few plans for today's broadcast. Give me a second. I'm going to go ahead and start doing a screen record because I can't access this live after the fact. So, I'll probably end up stopping every 20 or 30 minutes. Let me think about this. Yeah. Simply because it's a screen recording. Well, hold on. I wonder if it'll do it. I am just now getting this phone readjusted, and that's part of the reason why we're doing this live on Facebook is because I was having some issues in TikTok. I've been having issues with my main Gmail account, which stopped me from being able to use YouTube or access to my main TikTok account. So I couldn't go live. Now I have a second account on TikTok, which had been granted live access. However, now it's saying there's no live access. Sometimes it takes having to do a little bit of content uploading and things like that, and interaction on the site, and then things will catch up. I'm thinking that's what's going on. In order to resolve the issue with my main Gmail account, um, I have been given the option of doing the the key phrase, and them sending me back some kind of notification in the next 3 to 5 days. Might end up opting for that and using a couple of other options. We were using Restream so that we could rock and roll and simultaneously broadcast. The issue now is the profiles that I'm using. The second account on TikTok is actually the one that I wanted to use for the main live sessions. I want to use it for that and also for advertising and promotions. Anytime that I would go on the Angelic Discipline site, or profile, it would be specifically for messages pertaining, to that persona, so to speak. 3P Row is just supposed to be the professional side that handles all finances and everything else, a face with the name kind of thing. Angelic Discipline is supposed to be my personal. That was really just a way to get people to tune in and figure out that I exist. All right, so with all that being said, today we're doing lemon and lemonade. And part of that will be, I've decided, no, I'm not going to go ahead and do a screen recording. That's going to be too much. We'll probably be on for maybe 45 minutes. I don't know if we're going to take the whole hour. I have some excerpts in the Quran that I do want to read aloud. That's the reason I'm not going to go ahead and do a screen recording, is because I have the book with me, and if we needed to review, there's screenshots that can be done. So I don't want to take up a whole bunch of memory in the phone. Now that it has done a factory reset, I have access to at least 20 gigabytes. So I'm going to be careful in how I manage that memory and space. We got a lot of things to do, and since there's a new start, I'm going to take advantage of that. I was chilling for a second because I wanted to find some music to get us started on. However, I don't want to do any music. I want to go ahead and get this going. This particular live started late because I was attending a live from some other people in the assembly. Show of support. And my time on my device usually does run off of Eastern Standard Time zone. So when I was looking at the clock, I didn't realize I was an hour behind. By the time that happened, it was already 3:30 Central Time, and we were supposed to start at 4 o'clock Eastern Time. So it was 4:30 Eastern Time. So now at this point, I'm sure it's a little bit after 5. What we're doing, as far as 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, what we're going to do is read those excerpts. The last 2 sessions that we've had that were live, we were speaking about two men who have spoken on social issues from the 70s, 80s, 90s into 2000. That would have been Neely Fuller Jr. and also John Henrik Clarke. Started checking out what they were talking about because I'm looking at the fact that we are running parallels with a heated social issue. The circumstances going on in Western Africa are also the same circumstances we are facing in the United States, because there's some tariffs going on which are limiting our commerce, our trade, whether we are being producers or consumers. And some people just want to choose sides and cast a vote thinking that's what's going to make the problem go away. That is not going to resolve our problems. the same way that going and voting for someone in the office and then listening to their speech and grumbling about whatever it is that they're saying for the next few promises or the next few plans, grumbling about it, then wringing your hands as if there was nothing you could do. We're not taking that stance. In Burkina Faso, in Mauritania, in Mali, there are a lot of treasures. There are a lot of resources. Also in those countries are a lot of people who actually live there, who should be the first ones that benefit from those resources. We hear about a country called Nigeria. Nigeria is affluent, very prosperous. So why aren't those same enjoyments in life being served to the surrounding countries? Now, that's just a personal question, and more than likely I'll end up digging into it. I'm presenting it right now as a rhetorical question, though. If there is an affluent country, then why aren't the surrounding countries enjoying bounties? That's what made me go and look up the situation in Burkina Faso, because right now it's all over the headlines that they are breaking away from colonialism and at the same time looking for people who will help, people who will be affiliates, people who will be allies. And so yesterday we were listening to John Henrik Clarke as he was explaining some things from historical records concerning people of Islam who were in the area of Nigeria, and he was talking about Ghana. But the thing is, he was talking about back in the 1300s, back in 1046, and then the 1100s and the 1200s. There were certain dynasties that were in power at that time, and they did not reflect the true path of Islam. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not around for a lot of the times when people were doing invasions and causing chaos. You see, that is not the path of Islam. And so when he was talking, he was saying something about how this particular king had come in and invaded Ghana. This is the first time I've heard anyone tell a story that was anti-Abu Bakr and anti-Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa was Abu Bakr's brother. Mansa Musa was a king, and he was very affluent. So John Henrik Clarke was saying that some Muslims had come to Ghana and wreaked havoc, destroyed a bunch of stuff, and then another king came in eventually who kept things, put things back to order. That's what he said. And he was talking about how there was this 30-year turmoil that was going on between those who were citizens of Western Africa and those who were claiming to be Muslims or of the Islamic movement. This is my Quran. In my Quran, oh wow, I see 99 stars on this live. tada, and thank you 1,000 times. In my Quran, it shows the different sections, the surah, and it also gives you history. It tells you what was going on when that particular surah was revealed. We are about to review 3 sections of Surah 8. First, I'm going to read some things concerning what built up to the moment that the surah was revealed in order for the people to take their next movement, stance regarding how to selah, how to think about it, and then move forward. All right? Try not to wax crazy with my words. I'm trying to get succinct so we can move on. I just want you all to understand where I'm coming from with this stuff. So, Surah 8 is Surah Al-Anfal. So you can see it yourself. So we're about to start reading. That introduction goes like this. Before we even get started, Basmillah, in the name of our Father, may we be fed mind, body, and soul. Ameen. Period of revelation for Al-Anfal. The surah was revealed in 2 AH after the Battle of Badr, the first battle between Islam and Kufr. Since it contains a detailed and comprehensive review of the battle, it appears that the whole surah was revealed at the same time. 2 AH is 2 years after Hijrah. 2 years after the movement. 2 years after teachings began. Major issues, divine laws, and guidance. This particular surah covers the battle of truth and falsehood. Truth should not fear to be cowed down. Wait, what was that? Truth should not fear to be cowed down by odds against it. Fighting should not be for spoils or gains, but for a just cause. Laws relating to peace and war. Relation of an Islamic state with Muslims living in non-Muslim countries. Be in it, but not of it. Be the shining example of a certain way of life without living according to the standards of a system that is not the same as the standards of Yahweh Elohim. The Battle of Badr took place in the 2nd year of Hijrah. Therefore, rules and regulations relating to peace and a critical review of war have been made in this surah. But this review is quite different from the reviews that are usually made by worldly commanders after a great victory. Instead of gloating over the victory, the moral weaknesses that had come to the surface in that expedition have been pointed out as follows. 1. That the victory was due to the help of Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. All praise to our source of sustenance and mercy. That was the first time I've said the name during this session, so that's why I put that on there. That the victory was due to the help of Allah rather than to their own valor and bravery has been stressed so that the Muslims should learn to rely on Him and obey Allah and His Rasul. Rasul is messenger, representative, helper. In this case, it's talking about Muhammad. The moral lesson to be learned from the conflict between the truth and falsehood have been explained. That was number 2. Number 3, the mushrikeen, the hypocrites, the Jews, and the prisoners of war are addressed in a very impressive manner, advising them to learn a lesson. Now, this was going on in 1047, 1200s, 1300s. We are talking about 1200 years after Yahashua HaMashiach. So we're looking at how things turned out, even though the teachings were in place, even though there had been witnesses, how things turned out, what people were actually doing and practicing compared to what had been taught. That's why it mentions the Jews. And that's why there's a difference when it says the mushrikeen. That's the hypocrites. That's those who call themselves Jews, Jew. Those who are prisoners of war. And then, so these are unbelievers. Those who did not believe would have been the ones who would have been placed in opposition and then listed according to what their common practices were. All right. So number 4, instructions are given in regard to the spoils of war. The Muslims have been told not to regard these as their right, but as a bounty from Allah. Therefore, they should accept with gratitude the share that is granted to them out of it, and willingly accede to the share which Allah sets aside for His cause, for His Rasul, and for the help of the needy. Number 5, it gives instructions concerning the laws of peace and war, for these were urgently needed at this stage in which the Islamic movement had entered. It enjoined the Muslims to refrain from the ways of ignorance, whether they are in peace or at war, and thus establish their moral superiority in the world. Number 6, this surah also states some articles of the Islamic constitution which differentiates the status of Muslims living within the limits of Dar al-Islam, the abode of Islam, from that of the Muslims living beyond its limits. Dar al-Islam. Go look up Tanzania. There's an island to the northwest. It's called Dar al-Islam. That's where the caliphate live, who are the government of Tanzania. You're going to keep on hearing me talk about caliph. It's different than caliphate. So this section that we're reading right now is talking about those who were supposed to live in Dar al-Islam, and they are supposed to live a certain way and be representative of a certain way. In order to understand the circumstances and conditions which were being faced by the Muslim community and the Islamic State, in relation to which divine guidance and laws were enacted, it is important to know how the Battle of Badr took place. All right, so from here, I'm about to read to you what was going on with the Battle of Badr. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to read 5 paragraphs, and then I'm going to read 3 sections of the surah Al-Anfal. So here we go. The message of Islam had proved its firmness and stability. However, the Muslims had not yet had an opportunity to demonstrate practically the blessings of the system of life based on Islam. There was neither any Islamic culture, nor any social, economic, or political system, nor were there any established principles of war and peace. Therefore, the Muslims had no opportunity for demonstrating those moral principles on which they intended to build their entire system of life. nor had it been proved on the touchstone of trial that the Muslims as a community were sincere in their proclamation of the message. Allah created opportunities for making up these deficiencies at Medina. Medina is the place that they went to because they were being chased out of Mecca. Why were they being chased out of Mecca? Because the Muslims were saying that the things going on in Mecca were evil. This had been going on for a dynasty, not 10 years, not 30 years, more than 100 years. A dynasty before Prophet Muhammad came along. And as a matter of fact, after the change-ups were made and the declarations were made by Prophet Muhammad, within 30 years, a new dynasty arose. And that dynasty was not walking with the message of Muhammad. So when even these sections that I'm reading right now, I'm sure you can hear the fact that no, the perception is not necessarily coming from the perspective of Prophet Muhammad. It's coming from what became the reigning team that claimed Islam. That's why we're reading through all these things. We're doing the introduction so that you can hear what was the bias of history. And then we're going to read the direct words of what is being said, what we're actually supposed to be doing. All right. And mind you, it's only been 2 years. It's only been 2 years. There's only actually been two. Well, I won't say there's only been two surah that had been revealed by that time. That wouldn't be true. We do know Al-Fatiha had been delivered, 7 verses. And there were a few others that have been delivered. I'd have to go through and check each of the introductions just to see which ones were delivered in Mecca, and then which ones were delivered in Medina, and then which ones were delivered after certain battles and so forth. So there we go. It's only been 2 years. The people of Mecca had realized that Muhammad, peace be upon him, who had a great personality and possessed extraordinary talents, was going to gain a strong footing in Medina. This would help integrate his followers whose constancy, determination, and unwavering fidelity to al-Islam had been tried into a disciplined community under his wise leadership and guidance. They knew that this would spell death for their old ways of life. They also realized the strategic importance of Medina to their trade, which was their main source of livelihood. The Muslims could strike at the caravans traveling on the trade route between Yemen and Syria, and thus strike at the root of their economy. The value of the trade done by the people of Mecca on this route amounted to about 200,000 dinars annually. 200,000. So they're deciding on whether or not they need to hit the merchants and take currency, or do they need to promote their way of life and earn their trades through what they produced? In Shaban, second year AH after Hijrah, we would say February or March. Now they're placing this at 623 AD. Very interesting. A large trade caravan of the Quraysh on its way back from Syria, carrying goods worth over 50,000 dinars with a guard of 30 to 40 men, reached the territory from where it could be easily attacked from Medina. Okay, before I go further, I will have to do some research of my own because I was saying 1000 AD, 1200 AD, and 1300 AD. This is placing at 623 AD, the time of Muhammad. So I was off by 400 or 500 years. My bad. As soon as the caravan entered the dangerous territory, Abu Sufyan, the caravan's leader, dispatched a camel rider to Mecca with a frantic appeal for help. This caused great excitement and anger at Mecca. An army of approximately 1,000 warriors with great pomp and show marched towards Medina. They intended not only to rescue the caravan, but also to put an end to the rising power of the Muslims and overawe the clans surrounding the route so as to make it absolutely secure for future trade. The Prophet, who always kept himself well informed, felt that the hour had come to take a bold step. Otherwise, the Islamic movement would become lifeless with no chance to rise again. The condition of the Muslim community was still very shaky because the Muslim immigrants from Mecca, Muhajirin, had not been able to stabilize their economy. Their helpers, the Ansar, from the natives of Medina, who became Muslims after the Prophet and his followers migrated there from Mecca, had not yet been tested, and the neighboring Jewish clans could not be trusted. Above all, the surrounding clans lived in awe of the Quraysh and had all their religious sympathies with them. Therefore, the consequences of the coming attack could not be favorable to the Muslims. A careful study of the situation indicated to the Prophet that he should take a decisive step and go into the battle with whatever strength he could muster and demonstrate whether the Muslim community had the ability to survive or was doomed to perish. Now, keep in mind, there's a caravan that was already traveling, and then a dispatch was sent that was supposed to be the protectors. They are days apart from each other. The Prophet's analysis of the situation was supported by divine inspiration. Therefore, he called the Muhajirin and the Ansar to a meeting and placed the whole situation before them without any reservation, saying, Allah has promised you all, or Allah has promised that you will confront one of the two, the trade caravan coming from the north or the army of the Quraysh marching from the south. Now, tell me which of the two you would like to confront. The majority of the people replied that they should go for the caravan. When the Prophet repeated the same question, Miqdad bin Amr, a Muhajir, stood up and said, O Rasul of Allah, please march in the direction which Allah commands you. We will accompany you wherever you go. We will not say like the Israelites, you and your Rabb go and fight, we will wait. In contrast to them, we say, let you and your Rabb decide. We will fight by your side to our last breath. Even then, he did not announce any decision, but waited for a reply from the Ansar, who had not yet taken part in any confrontation for Islam, as this was the first opportunity for them to prove that they were ready to fulfill their promise of fighting for the cause of Islam. He repeated the question without directly addressing them. At this, Sa'ad bin Muaz, an Ansar, stood up and said, O Rasul of Allah, it appears that you are addressing this question to us. When the Prophet said yes, he replied, we have believed in you and confirmed that what you have brought is the truth, and have made a solemn pledge with you that we will listen to you and obey you. Therefore, O Rasul of Allah, do whatever you intend to do. We swear by Allah who has sent you with the truth that we are ready to accompany you to the seashore, and if you enter it, we will plunge into it. We assure you that not a single one of us will remain behind or forsake you, for we will not hesitate at all to go fight, even if you should lead us to the battlefield tomorrow. We will, inshallah, Allah willing, remain steadfast in the battle and sacrifice our lives for Islam. We do hope that by the grace of Allah, our behavior will gladden your heart. So trusting in Allah's blessing, take us to the battlefield. After this, it was decided that they would march towards the army of the Quraysh and not towards the trade caravan. Who are the Quraysh? The Quraysh, Quraish, Quraish. That was the ruling class during that time. There were 9 families that controlled the region of the Arabic Peninsula. And the Quraysh controlled the most wealth. They had the most power, the most prestige. As a matter of fact, Prophet Muhammad came from the Quraysh family. The Quraysh were the last of the descendants of that dynasty that Prophet Muhammad interrupted. Go check your notes about this family called the Qurra. These people who like to melt things and fashion statues. People who like to collect, hoard, and accumulate treasure. Check your notes. All right. I did say I was going to read 5 paragraphs and then I would go into the 3 sections. However, I'm going to go on and read this now. This one last paragraph before we get into the sections. The number of people who came forward to go to the battlefield was only a little more than 300. 86 Muhajirin, 62 from Aus, and 170 from Khazraj. Over and above that, this little army was ill-armed and hardly equipped for battle. Only a couple of them had horses to ride, and the others had to take their turn in 3s or 4s on a camelback. They had a total of 70 camels. They did not even have enough weapons for the battle. Only 60 of them had armor. They marched straight to the southwest, wherefrom the army of the Quraysh was coming. This is also an indication that from the very beginning they had gone out to fight with the army and not to plunder the caravan. If they had aimed at plundering the caravan, they would have taken the northwesterly direction rather than the southwest. The 2 parties met in combat at Badr on the 17th day of Ramadan. When the 2 armies confronted each other and the Prophet noticed that the Quraysh army outnumbered the Muslims by 3-1 and was much better equipped, he raised his hands up in supplication and made this earnest prayer with great humility. O Allah, here are the Quraysh, proud of their war material. They have come to prove that your Rasul is false. O Allah, now send the help that you have promised me. O Allah, if this little army of your devotees is destroyed, then there will be no one left in the land to worship you. All right. Here's section 1 of Surah Al-Anfal. In the name of Allah, the compassionate, the merciful. They ask you about booty, spoils of war. Tell them, the booty belongs to Allah and His Rasul. So fear Allah, end your disputes, and correct the relations among yourselves. Obey Allah and His Rasul if you are true believers. The true believers are those whose hearts tremble with fear when the name of Allah is mentioned, and those in whose faith grows stronger as they listen to His revelations, and they put their trust in their Rabb. You would say Rabbi, Rabb, who establish salah, prayers, and spend in charity out of the sustenance which we have given them. They are the ones who are the true believers. They will have exalted ranks with their Rabb, forgiveness for their sins, and honorable sustenance. Your Rab ordered you to leave your home to fight for justice, but some of the believers were reluctant. They argued with you about the truth, which had been made clear, as if they were being driven to death with their eyes wide open. Remember, Allah promised you victory over one of the two enemy parties, and you wished for the one which was unarmed. But Allah intended to prove the truth to be according to His words and to cut off the roots of the unbelievers. So that truth should come out as truth, and falsehood should be proved as false, even though the criminals wish otherwise. When you prayed to your Rob for help, he answered, I will assist you with 1,000 angels, one after another. By this good news, Allah sought to comfort your heart, for victory comes only from Allah. Surely Allah is mighty, wise. Section 2. Remember, before the Battle of Badr, when he caused drowsiness to overcome you as an assurance from himself, and sent down water from the sky to cleanse you and to remove you the uncleanliness caused by the shaitan, to strengthen your hearts and to steady your feet therewith. And blessings from Allah. Then your Rabb revealed his will to the angels. I am with you. Give courage to the believers. I will cast panic into the hearts of the unbelievers. Therefore, smite their necks and beat every joint of their bodies. This is because they defied Allah and His Rasul. Whoever defies Allah and His Rasul should know that Allah is strict in retribution. That is the reality, so taste it. And there will also be the torture of hellfire for the unbelievers. O believers, when you encounter the unbelievers in battle, never turn your backs to them. And whoever turns his back to them on such an occasion, unless it be a strategy of war, or to join towards a detachment, shall incur the wrath of Allah, and his abode shall be hell. And how awful shall be that dwelling. In fact, it was not you who killed them, but it was Allah who killed them. It was not you who threw the handful of sand, but it was Allah who threw it, so that He might pass the believers successfully through this excellent trial. Surely Allah is all-hearing, all-knowing. This is His dealing with you. As for the unbelievers, Allah will surely frustrate their evil plots. O unbelievers, you wanted a decision. Lo, the decision in shape of the believers' victory has come to you. Now, if you desist, it will be better for you. And if you repeat your act of war against the believers, so shall we repeat the act of providing them assistance. And your forces, however large in number they may be, shall avail you nothing. For verily Allah is with the believers. You see, I was reading things like this when I was 16, 17 years old. And it shaped my mind. The reason why we're not supposed to be running around saying we are victors is because to the victor goes the spoils. And if everything belongs to Allah, then only Allah is the victor. I had to learn to drop vengeance. I'm not going to go and tax someone just because they angered me. That's saying that now they are in debt to me because they angered me. And now they must pay me back some kind of way in order for me to be all right instead of being angered. That's not my place. My place is, okay, you don't agree with what I agree with, we should just go separate ways. If we happen to meet up and we agree, then let's keep on conducting with some sort of camaraderie in a relationship. But if we are in disagreements, as long as you're not actually physically trying to cause harm to me or my loved ones, what's anger? I have no reason to be angry. I have no reason to be vengeful. Section 3. O believers, obey Allah and His Rasul, and do not turn your back to Him. Now that you have heard all, do not be like those who say, "We hear," but give no heed to what they hear. For the worst animals in the sight of Allah are those deaf and dumb people who do not use common sense. Had Allah perceived any virtue in them, He would have indeed endowed them with hearing. Had He made them, those without virtue, hear, they would have turned away and refused to listen. O believers, respond to the call of Allah and His Rasul when He calls you to that which gives you life, and know that Allah stands between man and his heart, and that it is He in whose presence you shall all be assembled. Guard yourselves against temptation. The wrongdoers among you are not the only ones who will be tempted, and know that Allah is strict in retribution. Call to mind how He gave you shelter when you were a few in number and were oppressed in the land, ever fearing lest the enemy would kidnap you. He made you strong with His help and provided you a safe asylum and gave you pure things for sustenance so that you may give thanks. O believers, do not betray the trust of Allah and His Rasul, nor violate your trusts knowingly. You should know that your wealth and your children are in fact a test for you, and that Allah is He with whom is your mighty reward. For everybody that's running around here and talking about how proud they are of their children and all the stuff that their children are doing and how they are gaining so much value through their children. That's a test for those who are living vicariously through their children. And this also goes with anything. Your progeny is your product. So anything that you're doing, if you're jumping around saying that you are shining so much because of what it is that you produce, you're not even realizing that you're being tested the whole time. For all of your wealth that you have, you're being tested the whole time because you don't have wealth. Allah has wealth, and you are being given the chance to be a trustee with that wealth. Because the other side of the test is, what are you going to do with it? Are you willing to give it all to Allah? No matter what it is. Your life is a test. Are you willing to give your life? That's what the story of the Battle of Badr is all about. B-A-D-R. B-A-D-R. The Battle of Badr. They want to tell you about the story of 300. I just told you the story of 300. 300 people who had been blamed for something that they didn't do. They were basically being set up. And it was a test. Those who are pure and have no ill intentions would be ready to protect, defend, and guard the Muslim community. Those who were seeking treasure wanted to go and attack the caravan. There was no reason for the Muslims to attack the caravan because the caravan was not causing any threat to the Muslim community. You can tell a lot by observing your circle. In those sections, it says it's not just those who have ill will who will be tested. Everyone will be tested. And those who have faith in the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come out of that test stating the same thing that you're supposed to say all the time. To everything belongs Allah, including myself, and I am here to serve Allah. I'm going to do a little bit of technical research while I'm getting my device back together. Prayerfully tomorrow, we'll be able to go back to our regularly scheduled program because we are rocking and rolling. We use whatever tool that is available. And yes, Facebook is on my 9-player lineup and roster. So we did step over here for a moment just to see what's happening, just to make sure I could at least broadcast, because that's what I'm supposed to do on a daily basis. I've been waiting a long time to be able to do this. And one of my biggest concerns was, will I be able to do it on a consistent basis, no matter what's going on? So part of that is knowing that I have several different profiles, several different platforms to use. So there's going to be all kinds of different ways this message is going to be pushed. I thank everyone who has tuned in. Shalom Barak to you, peace and blessings. I pray that something was picked up out of this message as well. And we will do further breakdowns concerning this information. We would normally meet at 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time daily, except for Shabbat. And then on Sundays, we would speak on Q&A. But all the other days, there's 10 days out of a week, out of a 2-week period, where we would discuss 10 different special interest groups. Each of them has their own perspective. Today, actually, we would have been talking about crypto and beyond. And we would have been going through crypto, the perspective of a crypto analyst. Now, we actually already had that class earlier today. We did that. I just didn't happen to put it on this broadcast. But yeah, we explored crypto analytics, and I believe tomorrow, I might see about getting back on Clapper and making the announcement that we're getting back into crypto and beyond, because that's where it started. That was the nest for that particular special interest group. So yes, we get together daily to talk about entrepreneurship and service in your community. We've got quite a few different platforms and profiles that we need to start connecting up. We have quite a few people within our assembly that we need to start connecting up. The sooner we actually have a grid where people are in position will be the sooner that we don't have so much inner turmoil and chaos that's going on. If people were at their position and doing their tasks, there would be no time for distractions and just things that are off kilter. Let's always keep that in mind. We were handed the reins to go and do work so our Creator could rest. Our Father's peace to everyone who catches this message. Shalom Barak. Assalamu alaikum. Yahava Ahava. Yahava is love. Ahava Ahava. Love is love. That would make complete compassion Ametaba Ametofo. That is how you would say complete compassion in both Japanese and Chinese. Till the next time we meet again,